Hi, I'm Nikki and welcome to Tree of Life Ministries. Greg and Marinda have a very special story to share with us, and they had to put aside every preconceived idea that they had of God in their journey with God. Greg, Marinda, welcome.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.
And why don't you please tell me, each of you, a little bit about your background in Christianity, how you grew up, that kind of thing. Greg?
Yeah, sure, Nikki. I grew up in a very, I must be careful how to say it, but in a church environment with Christian parents, very religious. It was one of the traditional churches. I think learned a lot in that environment about the Word of God, and there's just a strong emphasis in the traditional church, which I always will be thankful for.
Grew up with parents who were Christians as well, and my mom actually comes from the same church that Greg was part of. So it was actually, it's like a little bit of an imbalance, but I think looking back, I'm thankful also for my dad, who had a more relaxed view of religion. You know, he wasn't, my mom went twice on a Sunday, my dad would go once. So we were like, okay, which way? But there was a lot of emphasis as I grew up on performance, but worldly performance. And there was a bit of a divide between church life and week life, you know, so it creates a little bit of confusion. I think what I saw and what I learned was that I could find my worth, my value in achievements. So I went all out for that, never knowing what God thinks of that, never even considering Him. I saw Him as a judge.
And then when you two met and got married, were you both still in that mindset?
Absolutely,
Definitely.
absolutely. And I sort of expected Marinda to join my church. That's the way we do it, because that's the right church. Mm-hmm. So, no, very religious, but like I think to add to what Marinda said, with one foot in the world and one foot sort of in religion, very ambitious, both of us still in the world as well, in terms of achieving, you know, our goals over there, but sort of then adhering to the religious practices that we needed to. So yeah, for sure, when we got married, that was the case, yeah.
Okay. And then you guys got married and you had several traumatic things that happened to you.
Yeah.
In your marriage.
Yeah.
You
know, we actually were boyfriend and girlfriend at school, and then broke up for a few years and then got back together again.
Marinda broke up with me.
Oh yeah. Just all my fault. But one of the things that I would just want to say that drew me to Greg was his faith, even though it was a lot of religion at that stage, but his steadfastness and his knowledge of the Word. So it wasn't an issue for me to join his church. We were married for 5 years when Malay was born, our firstborn, and Malay was an achiever, like we were.
Copy paste.
Absolutely. Spoke full sentences at 18 months and very clever.
Wow.
And, yeah, you know, like a dream child. And the first traumatic experience was when she was, I think, 2. We had our first miscarriage. And we soon had another one. And then after the 2 miscarriages, the gynecologist gave me some specific progesterone supplement to try and keep or save the next baby, and the next baby was Lara, our second-born daughter. And it was quite a difficult pregnancy, and I can't really put it into words. I didn't feel great the whole time. And then when Lara was born, she was a difficult baby. But I thought it was another colicky baby, so I just tried my best. And at the age of 3 months, she and Malay got a rotavirus from the playgroup that they attended. I was a teacher, and I took them to a new pediatrician who had seen all the other kids, and this guy just didn't focus on the rotavirus. He kept on asking me questions about Lara's development. My mom was sitting next to me with Marley on her lap, Laura on my lap, and we just looked at each other because we realized the questions that he was asking, there's something wrong with our child. So at one stage he said, she might or she might not. And I said, what are you talking about? She might or might not what? And he said, I think she's an epileptic. Now looking back, an epileptic is nothing.
Yeah.
You take a tablet and you're fine. Yeah. You know, but then he said to me I had to take her for a CT scan. Hospital didn't have an MRI scan at that stage. It's 22 years ago. And yeah, we had to wait for that. We got the results and it was all plastered and tapes all over saying confidential, don't open. And we just looked at this envelope and we just didn't want to open it. And when we saw him only 3 days later, he went like, you going now? He was just like, okay, well, her brain didn't form normally, in a normal way. She doesn't have a full brain in her head. So, yeah, it was difficult. It was difficult. Unknown territory, unfamiliar, like rug pulled out under us. So
Sure.
that I really, I think that night after she was diagnosed, I think I became reborn that night, Nikki, because I was lying with my head on Greg's chest, sobbing. He's quite good at comforting. And I realized he was like God in my life. I looked to him to solve things and to save me. And he's the prince, I'm the princess, you know. And I realized he can't save her. And so I remembered in Sunday school, we learned in grade 11, the Holy Spirit is the comforter. So I started praying, Holy Spirit, come and comfort me. Holy Spirit, I'd never prayed anything like that. And from that night on, my life changed.
Wow.
For me, it was a bit more of a process, being much less emotional. So we were talking about it this week, and Miranda's we're sharing with people about the grieving process, because getting a child like this is actually a loss in essence. And she went through a very clear grieving process, but I can't say that. And I think maybe for a man it's a bit less emotional. But my journey in terms of relationship with the Lord really started over there. I'll never forget, we had a young new pastor at our congregation, and he's still our friend today, and he came over and
he actually, we were sitting on a couch like this. He was just new to the congregation in Boksburg then. He's now in Bergbron, Stefan, and he went on his knees. And we'd never seen that. We knew a pastor on a pulpit there, far away from us, you know, distance. Not by choice, I suppose. But Stefan was here on his knees, you know, touching our knees, and he just cried with us and he prayed with us.
Yeah, it's a sort of a first sort of, you know, experience of maybe a bit of the Father's heart in terms of what it truly is.
Now you speak to women all over the country, and you go to Namibia, and
yes.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that and what you learned. I think Lara was kind of and you said Madeleine also.
Yes, Greg was saying this week, and I'd never thought of it like that, you know, God uses our children in great ways to change our hearts and to chisel away at things, you know, pride and stubbornness and I'm always right. And we missed it a little bit with Marley, you know, because we were still on that path. I'm going to be the best teacher in the world, and he's going to be the best manager, whatever in the world. And then Laura came, you know, and Marley suffered also because of Laura, and we missed that. Because the trauma that we went through, she went through. But her faith is great. So, and she's like this with the Lord. So the two of them, they're figuring it out, you know, she's doing amazing. And then of course, after Laura, we had 4 more miscarriages. So we had 6 miscarriages. We've got 6 children waiting for us for eternity. We're going to see them. And then Esther came. So yeah, there was something that happened with me and a domestic worker, and unfair dismissal, and it God led us on a path and showed us that she put a curse on me. And the word says, no curse will come and rest on you. It's Proverbs, without reason. So, but my heart was horrible at that stage. I opened a
massive
barn-sized door, you know. So anyway, long story short, eventually God showed us, and through my varsity friend, he showed where to go. He specifically said, go to this person. She prayed with us, broke the curse. And it's like a month later, I don't know, it was like miraculous what happened. I was pregnant with Esther. So Esther is Queen Esther for a specific time and place. And then just after that, we moved to Joburg, and Greg lost his job, and we realize I'm pregnant again with baby number 4. That was in the time when he lost his job and was retrenched. So I cried a lot that first day, because this is, what are people going to say? My husband lost his job, we've got 4 children, we've got a special needs child, we have to have a caregiver. Remember, in that time when he didn't get salary, we always had 2 helpers. And God just provided miraculously, just enough for every day. Anyway, so there's a big story to tell about God's faithfulness. And 10 years ago, I started wardrobe styling through my sister's gifting. God used her. And motivational speaking, I actually started with my sister. And but I always speak truth, and it's actually my testimony, and encourage women to know this, what we have been sharing today. God is faithful. And whatever you go through, Romans 5 is one of my mottos, the beginning of Romans 5, and I summarize it like this: trial and tribulation leads to endurance, builds character, and creates in you an eternal hope. Those 4 things. So we've been through many trials and tribulations, and we've learned to endure, just enough for every day. And even if we lie face down, we know we can look up and we can say, Lord, yes, we're hanging in here, we're holding on to you. And our character was built, and is still built, and it's going to happen again. And we have an eternal hope to see Jesus, to be with him one day, to see Lara running, talking, walking, she's a 22-year-old girl on nappies, tube fed. She cannot do a single thing for herself.
And the doctors didn't give her that long?
No. They said 2 years, and then one said maybe puberty 11, 13.
Wow, and she's 22
She's
now.
22, yes.
Yeah, will you talk about your journey and your jobs and that kind of?
Yeah. So I was a qualified teacher, and the Lord really gifted me as a teacher, but I never used it. I mean, I was so ambitious. 18 months into teaching, I met a friend at varsity one evening, and he said, "There's a job, there's an opportunity at Coca-Cola. Don't you want to join me?" And I was there, and I jumped at it. And I left teaching, and I started the journey in the corporate world. I thought about it last night. Everything that I studied and I was taught at university, I never used at all. So there's 2 ways of looking at this. Although I might have made the wrong choices, and the ideal path would have been for me to become a teacher, and today a headmaster, whatever the case may be, the Lord took me on this different track, and he used my decision also to help me to grow, because it was tough for me sometimes in the corporate world, and a lot of things happened. I struggled. I did struggle a lot in terms of adapting to the corporate environment and the harshness of the way things happened out there. And at some point, I was working for a bank, and we did cash in transit. It was a cash in transit business. It was actually at the same time that Laura got diagnosed, and at that same point in time, I lost 2 of my guys in an armed robbery. And the Lord, he was just shaking me up, and I had so many questions about that and the situation at work and why and what. I'll never forget, he told me one day, he said, Greg, you keep on putting a question mark where I've put a full stop. So leave this thing now, it's happened, we've dealt with it, move on. At some point then I lost my work corporately, was retrenched, went through that phase. And
How old were you when this happened?
I was about 20, Marin? I was 37. Okay, sorry, my calculation. See, university taught me nothing.
I know, because I remember all the pregnancies and our ages.
Okay.
Because by then we had Esther.
Okay.
We had three girls then.
Yeah.
We moved from Boksburg to Johannesburg.
Actually,
37, 3 children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lost my job out of it. Immediately a friend approached me that I used to study with and said, okay, he's got an opportunity, but it's a commission job. So there's no fixed income. You know, you get so used to your monthly income and the dependency on that, and the Lord can use anything. But I mean, immediately it was a question of the work that I get in terms of sales and delivery, that's what I get paid for. I'll get back to that now. That same point in time, the Lord took me out of the church. It was really the first real time where I heard him directly, and he said to me, I must leave. What am I doing here? I must go out of the church.
But just tell me how involved you were.
I was very involved. Actually, to a point, what happened that night is I was so involved. We were doing a church planting in Brixton, but I was never at home. Weekends, weeknights, I had my job. I had working in the church. It was total over performance. And one night coming back from that church that we were planting, where the spiritual battle was huge, I got physically sick. I had to stop next to the road. I got sick. And I went on my knees that evening and I said to the Lord, this can't be it. This is not what a calling is about. And working for you. And he said, yes, you're right. Get out of it. Genesis 12:3 with Abraham, leave your home, leave the
fatherland,
your father's house, and I will show you the way. The people didn't understand it. We just said, I was a leader in the church. I had to go. This was it. The Lord said to me, leave the church. So there we were, retrenched, no job, out of the church. So two of the big pillars in my life, your work and your performance and your church and your dependence, taken away from me. Sitting there on a Sunday morning, looking out the window, I hear the church bells ring and I'm thinking, should have been there. But it was not the case. Sitting at that same window, the Lord showed me in terms of various times, in terms of provision, the little bird and the lily in the garden. I could physically see it, and He reminded me, He will provide. So it was a long and a challenging time. I mean, at some points in time, you know how it goes. At the end of the month, you need to be able to pay the bills, and there's no money. And I learned quickly that you've got until the 7th of the next month. I mean, that's sort of I realized that's the cutoff. You know, you don't have to pay everything by the 25th or the 31st. Yeah. The 7th, there's a lot of time, you know. And by the 7th of every month, our bills were paid.
And He taught you to be dependent on Him.
Absolutely.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Not on performance, not on your achievements.
Correct. And why I'm saying it's a hard thing, Nikki, is the fact that we've gone full circle. I'm back in the corporate world. We're back in the traditional church. But we've got a different heart.
Oh, so what would you, because you actually got retrenched twice. Was it twice?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, true.
So you went through that whole, you know, thing. What would you say to men that go through a similar thing?
Yeah, I think you've got to...
I mean, now in this time that we're in right now, during
my goodness.
Corona, it's...
So not easy. There's no doubt about it. I think if, as a breadwinner, and if you've got a family to support, let's not oversimplify it and say, oh, well, and over-spiritualize it. There's definitely stress. But you've got to discern the condition of your heart. The Lord wants to use it it's a bit of a test, I think. You've got to go through a bit of a test in terms of your belief, your faith, and your dependency on the Lord. There's no doubt in my mind. Not that you ever become perfect in that. But and to trust Him with all your heart in terms of where the next provision will come from. Yeah, it's a tough time. It's stay close to your wife and your family, I think, because So often, I think that's one of the things with a disabled child, just to go back to that as well. I think the statistic says 95% of husbands walk out of the relationship, leave the wife alone with a handicapped child. I think with retrenchments and tough times coming across on your path, same thing. It's easy to bail out. I've had that thought with Laura. I thought, why I could have a different life.
What he told me that God said to him during that time, the first time he lost his job, was that he shouldn't let his pride stand in the way of God providing through other people.
That's a good one. People are easy. It's easy for a man to give, and you sort of get a bit of esteem from you, the giver and the supporter. But turn it around, and you've got to receive. That's a pride thing. Miranda's spot on, and you've got to get rid of that pride to be able to receive as well from the Lord. Not making you a beggar or anything. We say dependency on God, but what is your dependency on? You depend on your abilities to do a good job. You depend on your great position within your ability to create work and that sort of thing. And the Lord just pulls those things under you, and He asks you to revisit your heart and say, okay, what is this really all about? Who do you need to depend on? So. Yeah, and it's easy saying it now. I mean, if he does it tomorrow again with me, it stays tough. Let's be honest, but he's faithful.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and how God really, to you, is your provider. You mentioned Jehovah Shalom. He's your peace. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what we do, please like our videos, share our videos. You can check us out on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, or go to our website, www.treeoflifeministries.co.za.